GitLab Incorporated. Now, this is going to be the 38th company in our ranking system for the 2022 season. Try to see if you can guess what rank this is going to be. I will reveal the rank of GitLab at the end of the video. If you want to see it right away, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps in the description to just navigate as you please. Let's dive into it so that your wisdom can blossom. Straight to our opening move, item 8s. Auditors are questioning the decision to count about 300 million USD in subscription revenue. That may or may not be significant. 300 million certainly is nothing to scoff at. Indeed, 300 million would be more than all their cash and cash equivalents. Although here we continue to see that short-term investments slash some people call them marketable securities continues to be popular for pretty much any company under the sun. Not a good trend in my mind, but again, it's the reality. These companies are technically counting it as similar to cash. A fairly defensive company. I mean, less liabilities than they have cash on hand, roughly. A very defensive makeup for this company. We'll look in the income statement to see if there's still growth happening despite this very conservative defensive balance sheet. The accumulated deficit is getting up there. This could explain the defensive makeup of their balance sheet alone. This one line right here, these are becoming scary numbers. Okay, looking at the income statement. Now, the auditor questioning about 300 million in subscription services is actually pretty bad. And the reason is last year they didn't even have 300 million. This year they're above 300 million, which is great. But 300 million is by far the bulk of all of their subscription revenue. We might have to go back and see what KPMG was specifically saying. According to this, though, the gross margins of this business are very healthy, but around 80%, which is a very, very healthy gross profit. Anything above 60% is pretty healthy. How are you making a loss, a large loss, when you have an 80% gross margin? Well, the answer is sales and marketing and research and development. Now, this general and administrative is interesting because it went down and then it went up. For general and administrative in particular, you should be surprised if this is not trending in the same way as revenue. Kind of weird. Definitely kind of weird. We have a couple options into what we follow up on after this. Oof, the weighted average shares are shooting straight upwards. Never like to see that. Let's look at the cash flow statement in order to see if we can figure out which one of these observations is the most interesting to follow up on. Ooh, big stock-based compensation expense numbers. You can even see there was a big decrease in the stock-based compensation expenses in the year when general and administrative actually was lower. I kind of wanted to go through all of this, but this is so dramatic and right at the top. It's actually making me want to follow up on general and administrative right away. General and administrative expense on the income statement is related to this stock-based compensation expense. And so we're going to look at the two notes. Okay, here's a note on stock-based compensation, and it's quite a hefty note, so let's just get right into it. Vesting happens over 4 years. That's a little bit short, actually, in companies that pay employees through stock, is they're kind of secretly hoping that the employees leave before they collect the stock. So in 2021, they're specifically calling out 3 million shares that were granted to a single executive. It was the founder. Since this is going to be amortized over 4 years, shooting up in stock-based compensation is actually very tied to this one transaction. 3 million shares were issued in 8 separate tranches ranging from $95 to $500 per share. This is extremely opaque. The least that they would pay would be about 300 million. Divide that by 4, you would get 75 million. That explains alone the difference in the cash flow statement that we were seeing. Let me go back to that. 75 million to one person, the founder, would explain almost this entire difference. There would be about another 10 to 15 million left that are unexplained. About a year after they did that with the founder, they issued another almost 500,000, 0.4 million stock to senior members of management. I mean, this is becoming the culture of the company, basically. And you find that often a lot. Whatever the founder does, the rest of the executives see it as their right to do a similar, if not the exact same thing, sooner rather than later, most often. So very large costs coming from arguably things that are no longer impacting the future of the business. Here we go though, stock-based compensation broken down into where it's going to show up in the income statement. Now here we can see that very little of it is cost of revenue. As we expected, sales and marketing and general and administrative. Here's a lot of the fluctuation explained. I mean, these are differences of tens of millions of dollars, swings really of tens of millions of dollars. But we're going to pop over to the item one. There is this new product that GitLab has, the DevSecOps platform, stitching together of multiple products they already had, plus a few products that they acquired. So a single self-managed offering in a hybrid cloud / on-premises environment, either with public or private cloud based on a customer's preference. I mean, this is a big product, and it's a combination of everything that they've been going together. Brings together development, operations, IT security, and business teams. Big product, right? So means a lot more sales and marketing in order to get all the existing clients to consider switching from the existing product that they've been using to the new mega product. And I'm going to call it the mega product, where they want every customer to now be using the one product. And it will, over time, in theory, simplify their business and make them more effective, more efficient. But what it means right now is that they have all of their existing customers have essentially been alienated. They've been relegated to non-mega platform users. And what that means is salespeople getting bonuses if they accomplish this for their clients. We can see the specific products that are being replaced by this. And so instead of using the value streams dashboard or the value stream analytics, now you're using DevSecOps. Instead of using traditional portfolio planning and management tools, now you use DevSecOps. Instead of using GitLab repositories, now you use DevSecOps. Instead of using whatever your previous CI tool was, including GitLab's previous CI capabilities, now you use, you guessed it, DevSecOps. It continues like this. 9-10 bullet points for the one product. They are going to justify to investors why this is worth it. Faster time to market. Customers, if they're all already using the mega platform, they will all see the new features that GitLab develops much faster. This essentially is the growth curve of revenue being directly talked about. They're able to make a single platform much more secure. Boost morale and productivity. Yeah, okay, sure. I'm making some bold claims here by some consulting group. Let's not look too much into that. Cloud agnostic. Now, this is fascinating. In the video for Butterfly Networks specifically, check it out if you haven't seen that video already. I gave the example of cloud operators, cloud companies being a bit like real estate owners. The servers are the equivalent of owning a building, but it's really the software on the servers, the cloud platform, which is software, which is where most of the economic value is created. Lab is allowing any building to be outfitted in a way that is flexible, all in one, and best in class. Almost the majority of cloud companies are making their own software. GitLab is directly competing with companies that have the advantage of putting the software on their own servers. If their software can really be that good on GitLab's side. This might be similar to how Linux for a long while was hanging in there. But really, if we're being honest, Linux, I'm pretty sure, is more used in enterprise and in businesses than any other operating system. And it makes a lot of sense. They are just a better tool because they focus on just the software. If you go from one computer to another computer and you're using Linux, it really feels very comfortable and you don't miss the difference between one computer versus another computer. Whereas if you have Windows, there is going to be differences between whether you're on a Lenovo or a Dell or an HP. They're saying it even better than I am, which is GitLab has a superior user experience with an integrated platform, enabling developers to prevent context switching. For the developers that are at the largest companies, GitLab has a legitimate appeal to it. They believe almost all teams in the world will modernize, quote unquote, with do-it-yourself DevOps on their platform. Here is a partner network, partnering with Google Cloud and AWS, two of the big boys in terms of cloud vendors. We have to remember that Google Cloud and AWS both have software suites that they offer, but they make most of their money off of renting out raw compute. And so it doesn't really matter if you use the Amazon Web Services product suite when you're on Amazon Web Services. What matters is that they can track how much server space or how much load you put onto their servers and then charge you for that load. They're not going to be completely freaking out if you would rather use GitLab's software and just do it on their machines. Same with Google Cloud. GitLab is really aiming for the largest cloud clients. Hey, if you're getting more comfortable uncovering the stories behind the numbers, please like and subscribe. The companies that are dealing with multiple cloud vendors. Let us go back to the audit report. The company maximizes the use of observable standalone sales and observable data where available. In instances where performance obligations do not have observable standalone sales, the company utilizes available information that may include market conditions. Ooh, okay. They have a backup plan for when they don't actually know how much they should be charging a customer. The auditor mainly has an issue with this cost of revenue. The auditor thinks that these numbers should be lower and that these numbers should be higher. The gross profit margin here is very high, very like 80+%, a very, very high gross profit margin. Well, the auditor is saying most likely that is overstated. This is something we've actually seen in a couple of different cloud vendors, is that a lot of cloud vendors are not recognizing the distinction between research and development in the same way that many other industries would. There seems to be a tendency for these cloud companies or cloud related companies to argue that developing their features of their software is research and development explicitly, where there's a very real argument. Again, check out that Butterfly Network video, to be said about developing features for your platform. If you're collecting subscription revenue from your platform, that is a cost of revenue. If you stop putting out new features, you should seriously consider whether you would be continuing to have subscriptions. I mean, how many customers are going to cancel if you don't update every year? Probably more than zero. I'm going to go to the item 7. I think I saw something specifically from, general administrative. Now, item 7 notes are made by the CEO's office. And so these are kind of the often more extroverted, more businessy type people making notes. They have a note about general and administrative, and basically the item 8 didn't increase in our headcount and stock-based compensation expenses, which we already figured out on our own, actually. It's about 50% stock-based compensation, about 25%-ish consulting fees, and another 25% would be headcount. Well, the story here in GitLab is another interesting take on the world of cloud. And it's fascinating, actually. The world is clearly transforming from giant servers that they don't have to own themselves, that they can rent out. There are many, many, many companies with different opinions about how that world should look like. GitLab here, one of the more interesting ones that I've seen, they think you should be able to have such a good software that you can carry it around with you on any machine. So whether you're renting from Google, Amazon, no matter where you're working, it should look and feel exactly the same software-wise. And that's what GitLab is going to give you. And they're going to hook you in with some free software that any of us could look up and use the free version of several things for our personal projects. But really, it just gets so much better if you're a large enterprise that maybe can't figure out and clean up their cloud strategy just yet. They're still going to have multiple vendors for the foreseeable future. But at least you can start training people more effectively by having them all use the same cloud platform, the DevSecOps product suite from GitLab. This is the 38th company. Have you guessed yet which rank GitLab is going to have? It's time for the valuation ranking reveal. Ranked from 1 to 38. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share your wisdom. GitLab is ranked 31 out of 38 in value for the 2022 season so far. And this is not investment advice. It does take into account price as of when I'm making this video. Please check out an over-explained video if you haven't already, or if you already feel